Hello everyone, hope you all are having a great day and welcome to Life and Fire. This is the table of content of this presentation and this presentation. The first module of this presentation we will be discussing the objective and goals of code. The second module which will cover the reason for maintaining a fire prevention within a facility. The module of this presentation will cover the occupancy classification as per Saudi Building Code. We will illustrate all of the occupancy categories and define them with some examples to be more clear, and we will have an overview of the five types of building construction. The module of this presentation will cover building surface and fire protection systems. Please be informed that we will cover only the most common fire protection system within a facility, and the goal is to know how does each system operate in case of fire. We will cover automatic sprinkler system, fire detection and alarm system, portable fire extinguisher, and standby system. In addition, we will have a look at the main components of mean of egress which will be maintained in every facility to ensure the safety of occupants during evacuation. The mean of egress components consist of exit access, exit, and exit discharge. And we will conclude this presentation by covering who shall be the responsible of inspection, testing, and maintenance of the installed fire protection system, and the importance of all documentation and records of the ITM. This is a brief summary of the content of this presentation, and I hope you all enjoy it. And let's start with our first module. So in the first module, we will talk about the goals and the objectives of the code and standards. We will know the difference between a code and standards and the goals of maintaining a code and standards within a facility. The Saudi Building Code. The Saudi Building Code can be defined as a set of terms, requirements, subsequent law, executive regulation, and annexes related to buildings and construction to ensure the safety of public health. The code is applied in all works of buildings and construction, including the design, operation, maintenance, demolition, and modification and rehabilitation for existing buildings and facilities. And the primary code here we have in Saudi Arabia is Saudi Building Code 201. We have Saudi Sanitary Code 701 and 702. We have Saudi Construction Code 301 and 306. We have Saudi Electrical Code 401. We have Saudi Green Building Code 1001. We have Saudi Energy Code 601 and 602. We have Saudi Fire Code 801, and we have Saudi Mechanical Code 501. The National Fire Protection Association, which is called the NFPA, is a global self-funded non-profit organization established in 1896 devoted to eliminate death, injury, property, and economic loss due to a fire, electrical, and related hazard. The association published more than 300 consensus codes and standards that are intended to minimize the possibility and effects of fires and other risks. The code and standards are administered by more than 250 technical committees consisting of approximately 8,000 volunteers. Some of the most common codes and standards: NFPA 1, which is called the Fire Code; NFPA 101, which is called the Life Safety Code; NFPA 13, Standard for the Installation of Sprinkler System; NFPA 14, the Standard for Installation Standpipe and Hose System; NFPA 20, Standard for Installation Stationary Pumps and Fire Protection; and NFPA 72, the National Fire Alarm and Signaling Code. Knowing the difference between a code and a standard is essential to all engineers and contractors who are working in the field. One way of looking at the differences between codes and standards is that the code will always tell you when and what you need to do. However, a standard will always tell you how to implement and install a particular system or feature. For example, a code may say that the building must have a fire alarm system. The standard will spell out what kind of system and how it must be installed. Let's have an example. To have a clear vision of how to use the code and standard, the layout demonstrates a business occupancy with the following building information. Building area is 2,220 square meter. Building height is 25 meter. Occupant load per floor 400 occupants. and the number of stories is 5 stories. We can notice that the fire protection requirements will be determined through the requirements of the occupancy. And since we have a multiple occupancies in the layout, there are specific requirements that should be followed in SPC to ensure compliance with the code. But if we ask, do we need a sprinkler system to be installed in this building? The answer to this question can be found in SPC 201, where the code will direct us to the answer based on the building information. Going to Saudi Building Code Chapter 9, it states the following: an automatic sprinkler system shall be installed throughout buildings that have one or more stories with an occupant load of 30 or more located 70 meters or more above the lowest level of civil defense vehicle access, major to the finished floor. So basically we are meeting the requirements in building heights and occupant load per floor, and we can conclude that the building need to be equipped with sprinkler system. Therefore, we surely know now that the building need to be equipped with an automatic sprinkler system. The next question is, how do I install the system to obtain an effective operation? In FBA 13, the standard for installation of sprinkler system is going to answer this question. NFBA 13 would direct us to obtain an effective system that can control a fire with less damage. As per NFBA 13, the business occupancy is considered to be a light hazard, and the proper system to be installed is a wood sprinkler system. Therefore, the design criteria of the system, such as flow rate, pressure, and K factor, should be determined through NFPA 13 for a business occupancy. Once the design criteria is determined, the sprinkler system can be installed throughout the building as per the requirement of NFPA 13. Moving to the goals of the code and standard. So by achieving the intended goals of the code and standards, it will allow us to protect the lives and property from fire and any other possible hazard, securing the safety of firefighting and emergency rescues, providing durability and stability in buildings and facilities, rationalizing the consumption of water and energy, providing a healthy environment with the proper lighting and ventilation, improve the fire prevention and protection. The second module of this presentation will cover fire prevention. So the objective of this module is to know why do we need a fire prevention, and what is the strategy of fire prevention, and finally the primary difference between a fire prevention and fire protection. For fire prevention, there are three main reasons for fire prevention. The first reason, life safety. The primary goal of life safety effort is to protect building occupants from injuries and prevent loss of life. The second reason, property protection. The secondary goal of fire safety is to prevent property damage, and eventually protection of operation. By preventing fire and limiting damage, we can ensure that the work operation will continue. So, to understand a fire prevention strategy, we need to understand the fire structure. A fire must have three things to ignite and maintain a combustion. We need heat, fuel, and oxygen. And the basic strategy of fire prevention is to control or isolate the sources of fuel and heat in order to prevent combustion. If the three are not present in sufficient quantities, a fire will not ignite, or a fire will not be able to happen. Talking about the heat, a source of heat is required in order for ignition to occur, and different materials have different flash points. Unfortunately, combustion reactions also produce heat as they burn, further increasing the temperature of the fuel. For some types of fire, the heat can be cooled with the application of water. Talking about the fuel, a fire cannot begin if there is no material to burn. Homes and businesses are full of flammable materials such as paper, oil, wood, and fabrics, and if this material can be served as a fuel for a fire, some materials burn more easily than others. Fuels are probably the most difficult side of the triangle to remove, so it's wise to store them appropriately to prevent them becoming a fire hazard. Talking about the oxygen, to sustain the combustion reaction, oxygen is needed, as it is react with the burning fuel to release the heat of on CO2. Earth's atmosphere consists of 20% oxygen, so there is a plenty available to trigger a fire if the two other components are present. In this slide, we're going to be discussing the difference between a fire prevention and fire protection, and we need to understand exactly what's the difference between the two terms. So, for fire prevention involve proactive steps taken to reduce fire hazard so the fire does not have a chance to ignite. However, for fire However, for fire protection is a combination of different fire safety equipment and procedure that work together to defect fire and mitigate the negative impact. For fire prevention, here are some examples of fire hazards include overloaded electrical sockets, dirty fireplace, unattached burning candle, improperly stored flammable material, and poorly maintained heat or electric system. Therefore, fire prevention reduces hazards through the following: conduct a regular fire inspection and testing on fire protection systems that are installed within the facility to ensure they will effectively operate in case of fire; conduct a regular safety risk assessment to identify any potential hazard within the facility to maintain the risk at an acceptable risk level; perform any required corrective action to reduce the hazard at early stages; conduct regular staff training on fire prevention, routine fire drills, and many others; do not disable any fire alarm system at any circumstances; prevent smoking indoor. For fire protection, here are some example of fire protection system within a building that you may see: automatic sprinkler system, fire detection and alarm system, fire suppression system, fire portable extinguisher, standby system, and smoke control system. And there are a number of fire protection systems that you may see in a building that are not listed here. So, to obtain an effective fire protection, you need to conduct an inspection and maintenance on a regular basis on all fire protection systems as per NFPA standards to obtain a desired protection in the case of fire. Ensure a proper fire protection systems are selected for the facility based on the occupancy fire protection requirement as per Saudi Building Code. Confirm a proper design criteria of each system has been selected by a qualified specialist fire protection engineer. Document and record any design defective in a fire protection system for immediate corrective action to meet the code and standard requirement. The third module of this presentation is to get you more familiar with the occupancy classification as per the building code and an oversight of the building construction type. So for the occupancy classification as per the building code, we have Group A assembly used for gathering of 50 or more persons for deliberation, worship, entertainment, eating, drinking, amusement, awaiting transportation, or similar uses. So the building code categorizes Group A into five categories: Group A1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And an example of Group A1 auditorium, example of Group A2 restaurant, example of Group A3 workshop, example of A4 indoor sports, example of Group A5 outdoor sports. Another occupancy classification is Group B, which is business, an occupancy used for transaction of business other than mercantile. And we have only one category, and an example of Group B is offices. Another occupancy classification is a Group E, educational. This group includes buildings and structure or portion thereof occupied by more than 5 children older than 2.5 years of age, who receive educational supervision or personal care service for fewer than 24 hours per day. And we have only one category of Group E, We have an example of Group E are schools and kindergarten. Another occupancy classification that are listed in Saudi Building Code 201, Group F, industry or factory. This is the use of building or structure or a portion thereof for assembling, disassembling, fabricating, finishing, manufacturing, packaging, repair, or a processing operation that are now classified as a Group H, hazardous or Group S storage occupancy. And we have two categories of Group F. We have Group F1 for high hazard occupancies. We have Group F2 for low hazard occupancies. And for example of Group F1 is a carton manufacturing. An example of Group F2 is ceramic products. Also, the Saudi Building Code illustrates Group H high-hazard occupancy, the use of building or structure or portion thereof that involves the manufacturing, processing, generation, or storage of material that constitute a physical or health hazard in quantities in excess of those allowed in control area. And Saudi Building Code categorized the Group H into five categories. We have Group H1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And for group H1, an example of group H1, a positive detonation hazard, group H2, a positive deflagration hazard, group H3, a positive physical hazard, and group H4, health hazard, and a group H5, a research area in which hazard is production. Also, Saudi Building Code define Group I-1, which is stand for institutional. They use a building or a structure or a portion thereof in which care or supervision is provided to persons who are or are not capable for self-preservation without physical assistance, or in which persons are detained for penal or correctional purpose, in which the liberty of the occupants is restricted. Also suitable then could categorize group I into four categories. We have group I1, 2, 3, and 4. So for group I1, person receiving custodial care with or without any assistance. Group I2, facilities that provide nursing medical care do or do not provide emergency care and surgery. Group I3, structures that are inhabited by more than 5 persons who are under security. Group I-4, 5 persons or any age who receive custodial care for fewer than 24 hours per day. Also, the Saudi Building Code illustrates Group M mercantile, the use of building or structure or a portion thereof for display and sale of the merchandise and involves stock of goods, wares, or merchandise incidental to such purpose and accessible to the public. And we have only one category of mercantile, and it's just a supermarket. Also, the Saudi Building Code has illustrated Group R residential, the use of building or structure or portion thereof for a sleeping purpose when not classified as an institutional Group I, and Group R is categorized into four categories: R1, 2, 3, and 4. Example of Group R1: sleeping units where the occupants are primary transient. Group R2: sleeping units or more than two dwelling units. Group R3: occupants are primary permanent in nature. Group R4: structure or portion thereof for more than five but not more than 16%. Group S: storage: the use of building or structure or a portion thereof for storage that is not classified as a hazardous occupancy. We have Group S1 and Group S2. Group S1 for moderate hazard storage, Group S2 for low hazard storage. And an example for Group S1 storing furniture, example of Group S2 storing food. The last occupancy classification by Saudi Building Code is a Group U utility, building and structure of an accessory character and miscellaneous structure not classified any specific occupancy. And we have only one category, Group U, and an example of it, utility. So talking about building construction as per Saudi Building Code. We have five types of building construction. The first type is a fire resistant. Second type is a non-combustible. Third type is ordinary exterior protected. Fourth type is heavy timber, and the fifth type is a wood frame. So, moving to the fifth module of this presentation, Building Surface and Fire Protection System, we will talk about the automatic sprinkler system, fire detection and alarm system, portable fire extinguisher, standby system. And the objective and the goal of this module is to get you more familiar with the operation of each system of these. So let's talk about an automatic sprinkler system. An automatic sprinkler system is a fire suppression or fire control device with a heat-activated element. The sprinkler operates automatically when the air temperature rises to or above the device's specified temperature rating. When that happens, the sprinkler discharges water over a specified area. And we have four stages to discharge water from a sprinkler head. We have the normal condition of the sprinkler. Once the temperature is reached, the glass bulb will fracture, and then the cap release will be released and water will be released onto the diffuser. And finally, the water will form an umbrella shape and puts out the fire. Also, we have different type of automatic sprinkler system. We have a wet type automatic sprinkler system. We have a dry type automatic sprinkler system. We have a reaction type automatic sprinkler system. And we have a deluge type automatic sprinkler system. So let's talk about wet type automatic sprinkler system. So wood pipe sprinkler systems are the most common. In this system, sprinkler is constantly filled with water. When the temperature at the ceiling gets hot enough, the glass bulb or fusible link in the sprinkler will break. Since the system is already filled with water, water is free to flow out from the sprinkler head. The temperature around that specific sprinkler head needs to be high enough to break the glass bulb or fusible link that is holding the water back. Once that happens, water will be immediately start to flowing from that open sprinkler head. So, for a dry pipe system, are very similar to wet pipe system, with one major difference. The pipe is not constantly filled with water, and instead the water is held behind a dry pipe valve, usually some distance away from where the sprinklers are located. Like a wet pipe system, when the temperature at the ceiling becomes hot enough, the glass bulb or a fusible link with the sprinkler will break. However, in this case, water is not immediately available because the pipe is not water-filled, and instead air is released from now open sprinkler head, and this creates a drop in pressure causing the dry pipe valve to open and water to fill the system. Water will flow then from the open sprinkler head. Of all sprinkler system types, perhaps the most complicated is the reaction system. And there are three different types of reaction system. There is a non-interlock reaction system, and there's a single interlock reaction system, and there's a double interlock reaction system. And to operate any device of these, you need one or two events. So for non-interlock reaction system, you need either a detection event or automatic sprinkler event to operate the system. However, for a single interlock reaction system, you need only a detection device event to operate the system. However, for double interlock reaction system, you need two events to operate the system. You need detection devices and automatic sprinkler. So, the main difference between a reaction system and a wet and dry pipe system is that specific event or events must happen before water is released into the system. This might sound similar to a dry pipe system, but the difference lies in what event triggers to release the water. So, what you see in the picture here is a double interlock reaction system, and in order to operate the system, you need two events. You need open sprinkler head and a smoke detector. Once these two events are happen, an electrical signal will be sent to the valve to open the clapper. And once the clapper opens, the water will flow into the system and will put out the fire. A deluge fire protection system has an pressurized dry piping and open sprinkler head. The system is directly connected to a water supply, and when the system is activated, a deluge valve will release the water to all open sprinkler head. The valve is open when activated by a heat or smoke detection system. Deluge systems are used in high-hazard areas such as power plants, aircraft hangars, and chemical plants. These systems are very effective in hazardous areas because they are release water to another fire and to all open sprinkler heads simultaneously. The total flow method does a fire before it has the chance to grow uncontrollably. So let's talk about automatic detection and fire alarm system. We have two types. We have conventional and we have addressable. We will cover both in this presentation. So for conventional fire alarm system have been around many years and have changed a little in terms of technology. Although design and reliability have improved significantly, the system technology has protected many hundred of thousands of properties worldwide. A conventional fire alarm system is often the natural choice for smaller systems or companies with budget restriction. Within the system, intelligence relies within the fire alarm control panel. The panel receives a trigger signal from a conventional detector or initiation device. The designer must be sure that the last device of the circuit has a sufficient voltage to operate the device within its rated voltage. And now, let's talk about addressable fire alarm system. So for addressable fire alarm system differ from conventional system in a number of ways. An addressable system adds more flexibility, intelligence, speeds of identification, and the scope of control. An addressable fire alarm system are generally selected for larger buildings with more complex system requirements. In an addressable system, detectors are wired in loop around the building, with each detector having its own unique address. From there, the fire alarm control panel communication with each detector individually and receive a status report. So, for portable fire extinguisher, there are four types. We have CO2, which can be used in flammable liquids and electrical equipment. We have dry powder, and it can be used in wood, paper, and textile. Can be used in flammable liquids, and can be used for gaseous spray, and can be used for electrical equipment. And we have foam. It can be used for wood and paper and textile, and can be used for flammable liquids. And for water, it can be used only for wood, paper, and textile. For a standpipe system, there are three types. We have class 1, class 2, and a class 3. And the main difference between the three classes is that a class 1 standpipe system should be provided with 2.5-inch hose connection for primary use by trained personnel or by a fire department during initial response. Class 2 standpipe system should be provided with 1.5 hose station to supply water for the use primarily by trained personnel or by the fire department during initial response. Class 3 standby system should be provided with 1.5 host station to supply water for the use by trained personnel and 2.5-inch hose connection to supply a large volume of water for the use of fire departments and those trained in heavy fire streams. And in this module, we will cover the mean of egress. And we will cover only the components of the mean of egress. And remember, the mean of egress is a very huge topic, and there are many topics that goes under mean of egress. But we will cover only the main components of the mean of egress, which consist of the exit, exit access, and discharge. So basically, in every building, you need to maintain three components for the mean of egress to ensure that the occupants will evacuate safely in case of a fire. So for the exit access is a portion of a mean of egress system that leads from any occupied portion of the building or structure to an exit. Can be defined as a portion of mean of egress system between an exit access and exit discharge to the public way. While the exit discharge is a portion of mean of egress system between the termination of exit and public way. So we arrive to the last module of this presentation, which will cover the inspection, testing, and maintenance, and we will cover the responsibilities and records. So, the responsibility of the ITM. So, as per NFPA 25 4.1.1, responsibility of the inspection, testing, and maintenance and environment. The property owner or designated representative should be responsible for properly maintain a water-based fire protection system, and this should conclude but not limited to automatic sprinkler system, standby and hose system, private fire surface mains, fire pump, water storage tank, water spray fixed system, foam water sprinkler system, water mist sprinkler system, common components and common components and fire detection and alarm system. Records of the ITM. So as per the NFPA 25 requires the owner to be responsible for maintaining the system records and providing a copy of the HGA upon request, as per drawings including the accepting test and manufacturer sheet, should be maintained for a life of the system. The ITM report should be maintained for a minimum 1 year after the next ITM. So basically, it's very important to have inspection, testing, and maintenance to your system. Because if you fail the inspection, testing, and maintenance in your facility, you will fail the system. Even if you have a very expensive system, even if you have a very nice and fancy systems, it doesn't matter. If you don't do an inspection, testing, and maintenance to the system, it will fail. So we came to the conclusion of this presentation. Thank you for your attendance and your listening. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation. If you have any question, you can send it to me. And it was me, Ali Al Musabbah. Thank you all and have a great day.